Yeah, honestly, I'm obviously so disappointed. Yesterday the car was feeling good. Today, there was some direction that we ended up going, which on paper looked like it was the best place for us to be, and ultimately, I mean, our pace had been good. We've been progressing. I was feeling really on it. Didn't make any mistakes. Didn't seem down any exit roads. It was just that we didn't have the right tire in the end, and it's tough. You know, everyone ahead of me basically had the medium tire on, but I lost a medium tire in P2, and due to run plan schedule, and that put me on the back foot.
So did you not have one you could have put on, done a hot pit
yeah,
stop and
but
come
the
in?
choice wasn't taken to take it.
Okay, so there was no option to come in and do that, even if you had no fuel on board you?
Yeah, I think I wanted to, but they said that the warm-up was too long or something like that, so then we ran out of time and then ran out of fuel, so not great, but we'll take it internal. As I said, there's been lots of positives from this weekend. I've really felt on it. I honestly thought I was going to be shooting for pole today, and so it's come a bit of a shock, but I'll take it on the chin and, you know, keep trying.
How is it possible that a 7-times world champion, after mastering training, ends outside the next day? Was Hamilton's fault or Ferrari? Today I explain it to you with all the details. Lewis Hamilton's story in the Azerbaijan 2025 GP began as a promise of redemption. It wasn't another race and he knew it. It was the appointment where Ferrari, after months of adjustments, declared that they had finally found a balance in their SF25 car. It wasn't just the car, it was time. On Friday, both red cars led the timetables in free training, with Hamilton at the top, comfortable, safe, confident. Something that we did not see in him since perhaps the GP of Brazil 2021. It was not a coincidence. Lewis had not arrived in Baku simply to try new things, had come to conquer. Because for the first time in its short stage with Ferrari, the sensations were real. He said it. They had discovered a couple of things in the setup that completely transformed their experience behind the wheel. This is not a small thing. Talking about setup in Formula One is not to adjust a couple of nuts. It is to reconfigure the way the car responds in braking, in traction, and passing by curve. It is a conversation between pilot and engineer who can last hours, days, and find something in that configuration to click, can make the difference between being 10th or be in the fight for pole. And that is exactly what Hamilton felt that Friday in Baku. The car responded. He finally had aerodynamic load where he needed it. He could finally attack the curves without fear of flying. Finally, after so many races caught in a car that he did not understand, Lewis felt that the car was working for him and not against him. It is not a small thing, especially when you come from years of frustration in Mercedes, where the W13 and the W14 refused to cooperate even in their best days. Therefore, when Hamilton declared after the classification that he thought he could fight for pole, he did not do it since naivety, but from a conviction based on sensations. In Formula One, the experienced pilot knows when he has a competitive car. You don't need to wait for Q3 to know. He feels it in the first curve of the first round thrown. And that Friday, Lewis Hamilton felt it. And this is where history changes tone. Because on Saturday, that conviction broke. The relentless clock left it out of Q3. The classification, instead of being the confirmation of his return to the elite, was the cruel mirror that reflected the raw truth. Something had come terribly badly. And it was not a pilot error. It was not a bad curve taken, not a late braking. It was something much more frustrating. A structural failure in the team's strategy. An error that was created from the pit wall, not from cockpit. What hurt was not just the result. It was the betrayal of expectation. Hamilton, who had recovered confidence, who finally felt part of Ferrari, who had done his homework, found that the team did not fulfill its share of the treatment. And that hurts more than any track exit. Because at that moment, it becomes clear that for more than a pilot gives everything, if the gear of the equipment fails, the result will be the same: frustration. And in Ferrari, that failure is a historical constant. The Tifosi know it. And Lewis is now discovering it. In Formula One, the most expensive errors do not always occur under the lights of the traffic light or in the middle of a closed curve. Often, the real disaster is created in the gloom of the paddock, in the spreadsheets, in cryptic radio communication, and in decisions taken with second margin. This happened with Ferrari and Lewis Hamilton in the Q2 of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. An error that was not seen on television, but that defined the fate of the 7-time world champion. To understand the magnitude of this failure, you have to understand something essential. Modern Formula One is not just speed, it is applied science in real time. And within that science, tires are the most volatile and critical factor. In Baku, urban circuit of long lines and medium-speed technical curves, the choice of tires is everything. And Ferrari, incredibly, was completely wrong. While most leading teams went to Q2 with middle tires, the C5 compound, Ferrari chose to mount C6 on Hamilton SF25. The difference may seem subtle for the casual spectator, but in the context of this 2025 season, it is lethal. The C6 have demonstrated throughout the year a disturbing feature. They have a very close temperature operational window and a compromised useful life. They are fast on a return, but only if they are activated perfectly and in a very specific range of conditions. In other words, they are a double-edged sword. The most worrying thing about this decision is that Ferrari already had the data. In free practices, Hamilton had shown a stronger performance with the media. Even their long batches offered better degradation and progressive traction with that compound. So why change in the classification? That is the question that rumbles with Eco and Maranello. Some analysts, such as Sam Collins of F1 TV, suggest that the team tried to force an immediate advantage when looking for an extra grip in the first sector, sacrificing the general behavior of the car. But that decision did not take into account two fundamental variables: the configuration of the car and the specific conditions of Baku. Hamilton had chosen a high aerodynamic load setup to gain confidence in technical curves, an adjustment that penalizes in line but offers stability in slow areas. However, this type of configuration increases the thermal effort on softer tires. Result: the C6 overheated and lost effectiveness at the time Hamilton needed them more. Worse, traffic on track, something common in Baku, complicated the preparation of the launched return. Not being able to cool the tires properly before the final push, the British met an unpredictable car, without the grip he expected, without the balance he had felt on Friday. And there, in just a classification return, everything vanished. But the background question is not just why Ferrari chose the wrong tires. The question is why they continue to make this type of errors at critical moments. Because in a team of this caliber, with millionaire resources and access to the best technology, these types of decisions should not occur. Not at this level. Not with this pilot. Hamilton, meanwhile, did not directly accuse the team in his statements. But his tone said everything. Body language, pause before answering, the slight gesture of disbelief, are the subtle signs of a pilot who knows that it was not he who failed, but the system that surrounds him. The invisible is not just the error. The invisible is the fracture that begins to open when a pilot begins to doubt his own team. And that fracture in Formula One can be terminal. To understand what happened in Baku, it is not enough to analyze telemetry graphics or timetables. You have to enter Lewis Hamilton's mind. Because this is not just a Formula One pilot. He is a champion who has been carrying the pressure of a story that has rewritten several times for more than 15 years. And when a champion of his caliber speaks as frankly as he did after the classification of Azerbaijan, we cannot limit ourselves to transcribing his phrase, "I honestly thought I could fight for pole." You have to interpret what that really means. What happened in Baku was not just an elimination in Q2. It was a psychological turning point. Because when a pilot feels that his effort does not translate into progress, he begins to wonder if the problem is systemic, if he is fighting a war that he cannot win. That doubt is dangerous. It is silent, but it sneaks into each technical conversation, in each feedback with the engineer, in each simulation. And while Hamilton has a mental resilience out of series, it also has a limit. He already let him glimpse when he left McLaren. He already hinted when Mercedes insisted with a concept of car that he never approved. And now in Ferrari that same pattern threatens to repeat itself. The question is not whether Hamilton can recover confidence. The question is whether Ferrari can offer you concrete reasons to continue believing. Everything that happened in Baku with Lewis Hamilton cannot be understood simply as a bad classification. It is a deeper message that tells us about the hidden fragilities in the functioning of Ferrari and the risks involved in building expectations on a basis that is not yet solid. And now the question, do you think it still has room to turn this story into a redemption and glory, or we are seeing the first chapters of a tragedy announced? Don't forget to leave your opinion. What do you think will happen?